Let's chat.
It's hard.
You want to talk?
I know, that's disappointing.
Sit back. Let's work this
How's
out.
it going? What are we doing
pretty
here?
good.
Where are you going? Hey there. Wow.
It's not always easy.
It's amazing if you think about it. Let's think about this. Strange. I have some thoughts about that. Life is hard.
Trauma bonded.
I do want to say, again, we're definitely not qualified to speak about any of this.
Good reminder.
That should be the name of our show. Definitely not qualified to talk about any of this.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to say Happy Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Oh my gosh. Is it?
So shout out to all of our Asian American and Pacific Islander
What?
straights and gays.
That's me.
Welcome to Trauma Bonded. I'm Elly Westberg here with Therese Garcia.
Hello.
And today we're discussing episode 318 of the podcast, This Is Actually Happening. What if your daughter went missing? And a brief synopsis. Misty has a hell of a family tree. It's fraught with abandonment, neglect, and abuse. But it does yield her a sister, Billy. In her early 20s, Misty has children, Blake and Allison. Through much of their childhood, Misty is a drug user, but finally gets sober at the behest of her kids. Then, of course, her kids reach an age of curiosity and begin their own experiences with drugs. Allison heads down a dark path with her meth boyfriend, not saying his name. One weekend after they've been together, Allison goes missing. Misty spends months searching for her. Her remains are finally found, and it's truly unknown what happened to her. It is still unknown to this day, although the official report is hypothermia. And full disclosure, I'm the showrunner for This Is Actually Happening, and T knows nothing about anything. She comes in fresh, and this show, Trauma/Bonded, is for the listeners, a space where we can talk about each episode, digest it, and reflect on it with empathy and also a bit of levity. That's Trauma Bonded. This is part one of a two-part series, and I'm saying this mostly to you, T, because you don't know anything. And I'm saying it to the people that maybe don't listen to This Is Actually Happening, but listen to Trauma Bonded. So there's a reason that she talks a lot about Billy. Billy is her sister.
Okay.
And she's going to be next episode, part two.
The one after this?
Mm-hmm.
Do we know what that one's going to be about? Is it going to be from the perspective of what's happening here, or a different story? Or do we not get to know that?
I think I can spoil a little bit here.
Oh.
Misty talks about how Billy goes into this weird mental break, this mania, and ends up abandoning her family and living rough on the streets of Portland for months.
Yeah.
This is part of Misty's story that she's referring to.
Yeah.
And then Billy comes back in her life to basically be there for her when she's going through the search for and the loss of Allison. So Billy's story is we'll hear about Billy and going into her break, her mental health break.
Okay.
And so we get to hear from her point of view. Yeah.
How did they come together?
Glad you asked that, T.
Oh.
Billy approached us with her story. And in talking to her, she talks about, and then, when I started becoming healthy, my niece went missing. And we're like, what? So she told the story of that. And so that inspired us to say, would Misty be willing to tell her story? Because it's very much interrelated. Like, it's not focused on a lot in this episode, but it probably will be in Billy's episode. Like, even though it wasn't Billy's fault, what she goes through, like, she loses a lot of trust with her family for a long time. And this closeness with her sister is sort of like wiped away. And so because Allison goes missing, it like forces their pathways back together. So it's very much a story about two adult sisters that grew up like loving each other, but then like go through these terrible hardships and like keep keep hold of one another. I also want to say that I feel like this is a really complex episode. My brain was pinging all over the place. It's weird how in storytelling, especially commercialized storytelling, there is this concept of Save the Cat. And everyone knows about the screenwriting book called Save the Cat.
I mean, I know that what you're talking about. I don't know if everybody does.
It's just the idea that in order to endear the protagonist to the audience, page 1, if you have that character save a cat from a tree or getting hit by a car or something, automatically, without you knowing much about that person, you've already endeared the protagonist to the audience, right? But I say that to say Misty's own struggles around her children, I think, or her having struggles in front and around her children, it invites a certain judgment from the audience. So I think this is an empathy exercise for sure. And because most, if not all of us, we struggle with something. So I think it's just important to listen to this with compassion. You know, there is no such thing as a perfect victim, you know, and it's something that we've kind of learned and accepted, especially when it comes to sexual assault cases. This idea of vilifying the victim or making sure that the victim doesn't have any skeletons in their closet so that, you know, a court can find them credible or find compassion for them. There is no perfect victim. And I think that that's a narrative that is pushed on us all the time from news and courts and movies. There's hero and villain, there's black and white, there's good or bad. But, you know, life is full of nuances. And Misty completely acknowledges that her struggles in and around the drug world and bringing that in and around her children may have had an effect on what's occurred in her life. And yeah, I just want to say, and I'm saying this to myself as well, like, listen to her story with compassion and know that no victim is perfect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Did you have any feelings of judgment when you were listening?
I think if I had known about her past, I definitely would have had more judgment.
Well, let me ask you this, T. I mean, if you just hear a meth addict with 2 children at home, we all do this. We all have our automatic ideas or feelings about that, around that. But why don't we automatically think to ourselves, oh, I'm sure they had a rough start in life to get to that point? Why do we kind of always just assume well, that's what they want, that's the choices they make, and that's how they ended up there, and they're just evil and bad? I mean, why don't we always give them the benefit of a hard life up to that point? And I'm asking generally.
I mean, it's one of those things where, you've got 2 kids in the mix. It's hard not to judge.
Because you're saying that by virtue of it being a drug addiction, there's a lot that's assumed with that the kids are being neglected or they're not being emotionally supported, or somewhere there's some lacking if that's happening.
Of course. I mean, she was saying they were fed, they were taken care of, but not, emotionally.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Why don't we ascribe the same judgment to parents that just recreationally use alcohol in front of their kids?
Yeah.
Obviously, any kind of drug or alcohol use could impair you in a way that kept you from acting in a
100%.
tragic situation, And luckily, most of the time, 99% of the time, we can have a few glasses of wine or whatever, and the kids are going to be fine. The kids are all right.
Yeah.
But if something did happen,
yeah,
and it was something really tragic, I think we would look back and at the situation and examine every element and start to really drill down into, we shouldn't have been doing that around kids. I think.
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of shame, especially doing this job and thinking about how much the kids observe and see and feel and witness. I have a lot of shame about drinking so much around my nieces and nephew when they were like in tender ages. And again, nothing like weird happened, and I was never so intoxicated that like, I don't know. I don't know. I can't help but think, like, thank God nothing did happen, but they're like absorbing all of that,
Yeah.
you know? And when they're little, it's okay almost because they don't know enough to know what they don't know and what they do know. And that's why it makes sense that her kids were, until they were teenagers, they didn't recognize that they had the power to push back at her and say, we want you to get help.
I was brought up not around alcohol at all.
Me too.
Confusing. I don't get it.
Huh.
Here we are drinking. I mean, I don't drink that much these days, but I'll definitely have a drink in front of my kids every now and again.
Well, and I think a lot of people do. I mean, the majority of the world does. And the majority of the Western world does, let's say that. Wine at dinner. Yeah.
I need a drink after if you're feeling stressed.
Let's have some beers and watch the game. And if you're just on the outside looking into a home, like thinking about a movie scene at Thanksgiving, and kids are there, but there's wine on the table. Oh my God. Like no one does that, right?
Yeah.
But if the mom and dad pulled out a bowl and started passing it around, people would react to that. Like weed.
Okay, yeah.
And then they pull out a crack pipe and light that up. People are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But is that Christmas crack pipe?
Every Christmas.
New on Hallmark. She needs a baggie, a spoon, and a needle. Check the junk drawer.
The junkie drawer. Sorry.
Oh, wow. Can't believe I missed that one.
That's messed up.
Okay, back to the episode. What stuck out to you is the heart of the story.
I went with one word on this one. It's a bit of the nose. Went with lost.
Terrible show.
I was going to say I never even finished it.
I have really close friends, including my partner, who love that show.
I liked like the first season.
Yeah, and then I went completely butt nutty.
And then nothing really, got... It was just
all
like
a
random
dream.
stuff. Nothing gets explained. Like, it's like, okay.
Stupid. Sorry. Go ahead.
So I went with lost. From her mom leaving, her stepdads leaving. Her mom leaves her with a babysitter. I mean, oh my God.
Yeah.
Losing yourself in drug addiction. Her sister's mental health, kind of losing her sister physically and mentally. Obviously, when she loses Allison and how she feels, that panic and helplessness, you just feel lost when you're not, when you don't know where your daughter is. And then even after, like, what's your identity? She had to relearn everything, so.
It's great. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, great. I'm not trying to be jokey,
Oh,
and
God.
maybe it's too view from 10,000 feet up. But I thought the heart of the story was life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Did you feel like you had enough time to think about this one, or was this just like a quick impulse thought?
Misty, she has this attitude of like nothing can hurt me now, right? Like I'm impervious to pain because the worst thing that has happened to me has happened. The worst thing that could ever happen to me has happened. So it's like, what else is on the horizon? And I feel like that attitude makes one sort of sit back and relax and takes life as it comes. And I think that's what that line is about, right? Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Maybe not. Of course, you're still feeling things and in pain, but it's like, okay, God or universe or Allah or whoever, what else have you got for me? And sorry to keep on the Forrest Gump angle, but there's that moment when Lieutenant Dahan is yelling at God through the storm. And he's basically like, is that all you got? Come on, kill me, kill me. And he does it, and the storm stops, and the sun comes up, and Dan has this new peace and understanding with it all.
No, I see where you're getting at, and it's an interesting perspective at the end, right?
Like, days are going to keep rolling by. Situations are still going to come. You still got to work. You still got to dress in the morning. But also, more tragedies are on the horizon. And it's like, what, okay. Let's pull one out of the box and see what's next, because I've already picked the worst one.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a privilege to be stressed about things that aren't all that stressful.
Yeah.
It gives you some new perspective when you've gone through so much pain.
Yes.
And all the chocolates now are going to taste good. Is that what you're saying?
No, not necessarily.
Oh, no. Oh, I thought you were... now I don't know what you're saying.
This is assuming I know what the writers of that line meant. I guess I never really thought about it. It is true. It is like, you never know what you're going to get. Every day is going to be different. But I think when we think about it in terms of like, what do you like in a chocolate box? Like, and the thing about the chocolate box is, unless you have the one that has like the key, you don't know. You're going to pick one up and you're going to take a bite into it. And you're going to be like, yay, or, ugh, I hate those, you know? And that is kind of like day-to-day living. You don't know what you're going to get. And sometimes it's awesome. It's your fave. And sometimes it's like, oh, this is the worst one. And I'm saying she pulled the first one really early.
So one of the pieces of chocolates was her losing her daughter. Is that what you...
Well, no.
I'm just trying to understand. Okay. I just didn't...
There's a lot of wisdom in Forrest Gump, is my point. It's weird because... I mean, I admire her so much. Like, I don't know if I could handle that much loss. And this is, this is kind of reason 1,700,000 that I chose not to have children a long, long time ago, is because when you have your life more invested in others, and especially ones that like are dependent completely on you, it's a scary thing to lose them and they go missing, or lose them and they die, or and it feels it's too much responsibility, So because she's already gone through the worst fucking thing in her life, she's kind of got this Zen badassness to her now, like that nothing can get to her. Let's talk about Misty's family tree, because it's a little confusing. But so her biological father gives her up. Her biological mom is very young, born in Montana. She marries a man, Earl, who adopts Misty. And then that is also Billy's father. And it's particularly gross because he's in his 50s and she's only 16, but whatever. And then he dies. This is while Billy is still in gestation, right? And then, so at some point, her mom, it's just the three of them, they get left with a babysitter. The mom decides that she can't do this anymore. And the babysitters somehow hand the two girls over to the neighbors. And then they adopt, that's Terry and Cheryl. And Cheryl is alcoholic, abusive. And then Terry finds out about it and gets divorced. And then he marries Trina. And again, this is gross. He's 30 something. She's only 19, whatever. Then that's how they moved to Oregon. I had to write this out because it feels like a lot. And Misty and Billy are neglected, but they raise her kids. And then Terry sexually abuses Misty, but everyone thinks that she's a liar. And then Trina kicks them both out when they're very young. Sounds like 16. So let's just talk about this tough start that Misty had. She's given up. She's passed around. She's handled by alcoholics and drug addicts. She's abused, she's neglected, she's parentified, having to be a kid and raising these other kids. She's sexually abused and not believed, which I think makes it that much worse. And then she's kicked out for being a lesbian at 16. I mean, talk about a girl, a person that has been behind the fucking 8-ball her whole life.
You're never settled. You never have anything you feel you can depend on. And even with Terry, finding out that Cheryl is abusing them, you're thinking, oh, good thing Terry really saved her.
Yeah.
And then he sexually abuses her. Like, you can't trust anyone. And she talks about it really matter-of-factly. Feels...
You could hear the pain in her voice when she talks about how, and still to this day, no one believes her. Do you want to talk about her lesbian years? Or no?
I thought we were going to focus on that this entire time, but no, we can go. We can move on.
They're not lesbian. She's just exploring. She's fluid.
Yeah.
She's just exploring.
That too. Like, I'm like, we're hanging out with this lesbian. She makes a pass at her, but she's there when she gets kicked out and offers her a place to live, which I'm like, oh, good. But then it's like drug fueled. And you're like, oh, God.
Yeah. Yeah. Just all bad.
Yeah. But then she goes to school. I mean, it's almost like the best thing that happened to her is like going out on her own so that she could take care of her sister and they could just take care of each other.
I can't imagine going through this world without a true safety net. I think it took me a long time to understand that, certain friends of mine that lost their parents or never really felt close to their parents, and they'd talk about they have no one to go back to or no one to fall back on. And I never really thought about it until I really started to examine my privilege and to feel like, okay, I can put myself out there. I can take this risk. I can do this thing. I can live like XYZ. And worst case scenario, I just move back home. I mean, I don't think we realize how that can really give you a peace of mind walking through this world.
And you might not even consciously say, at worst case, I can move back home. Like, you just, when you feel it, and you know you're safe.
Yeah.
But I don't think she ever felt that.
Yeah, and I don't know what it's like to walk through life like that. So she gets married at 20, and he's hilarious, but a drug addict, which makes sense to me. It's usually the way. And she talks about, I think this is interesting, because she talks about how him being addicted to crack cocaine took up a lot of his time.
It takes a while, yeah.
It's not something that we talk about in terms of drug use. We talk about the deficits to you physically and mentally, and maybe your pocketbook, and you suck some D's that you didn't want to, but you really needed to get that fixed. Like, we talk about like all that kind of stuff, but we rarely ever mention the time suck that is drug and alcohol abuse. The ultimate time theft really is. And if you think about, if you've ever had a hangover,
such a waste of time.
What a time suck.
For real.
I think about how much time I've lost to booze, and that really makes me mad and upset at myself. And I imagine that the time lost to crack cocaine is...
I mean, I don't know the ratio.
It's like, for some reason we give alcohol its own category. Everyone accepts it. But crack cocaine, it's not just like doing it, but like it's illegal, right? So you have to like find the person that does it and makes it or sells it, and where is it and what's in it and how did you make it, and do I have a trustworthy drug dealer, and what tools are needed? Are they clean? There is a lot of upkeep to this hobby. Like, it's so much, more difficult than just like popping over to the store and getting a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Open it up, drink it. Yeah.
And then you have to find privacy to do this act.
You can't just do that at a bar. Yeah.
And it ravages the body. Are there hangovers? I don't know. Is there a crack hangover?
I would assume.
I feel like, especially for people getting older, I know that that's impactful to me when you say, hey, it's going to be a real time suck to you. I automatically go, wait, what? No. And I think that's what has started changing my thinking on alcohol too. Like, I don't want to wake up feeling like shit tomorrow. So I'm going to try to drink less or not drink tonight, but to be able to have a meeting of the minds between night Elly and morning Elly, that's the battle.
Yeah. And Elly in her 40s as opposed to Elly in her 20s.
Oh, Elly didn't even drink in her 20s.
Oh, so you're just catching up.
We talked a little bit about drug use as a mom, especially when they're young and they can't tell you to stop or that how you're affecting them, but you are emotionally absent. She talks about she did meth and opiates, and she, of course, drank. And to me, again, I think of crack pipe Christmas, or meth Merry Meth Christmas, but, it's obviously more of a private kind of event than that. But I think what's upsetting about those kind of drugs, and then are maybe different from this, again, the separation between those kind of drugs and alcohol, is the people that come with it.
Yeah.
And that can be the damaging part of that. Bring Jim Beam in the house, that's all it comes. You bring Mr. Meth into the house, 5 other methy guys come in with, it's, ooh. She talks about how she goes to these NA meetings and Allison wants to go with her, and she does go with her. What are your thoughts about that? Like a preteen kid going to NA meetings with you?
I thought it was really sweet. I mean, I guess it's really probably not a great environment maybe for the kid, but it's like she wanted to support her, and she felt Allison wanted to support her, and also maybe it helps Allison too. It also seemed like she may have connected with the other people in NA. I don't know, I thought it was kind of sweet.
Interesting.
You didn't think it was sweet? It's hard. It's tough. It's a tough thing, but
I feel like a lot of vulnerabilities are being spoken of in a place like that, and because they tell their story and they recount their losses and their down and out moments, and it's like, and kids, especially those that age, are always listening. I don't know. Is it?
When I was 14, that wouldn't have worked for me probably, but Allison, I think, she had dealt with a lot and understood more probably at that point.
Yeah.
Not that she should be exposed more maybe, but I just thought that she wanted to be there with her and support her, and she felt empathy towards the others as well. I did not think this story would go the way it went.
Do you think, though, that there's a level of parentification that's happening to Allison to be exposed to such terrible stories of others, but also your mom in a situation like that? Like, maybe kids aren't supposed to be privy to that.
Maybe not. I for some reason thought this story was going to go somewhere totally different, and she was going to be volunteering at the NA when she got older, helping others get out of addiction without actually having been addicted, because of hearing everybody's stories. So it did not go that way. But for some reason, I thought that was the direction the story was going.
So she's, Misty is sober she begins her sober life. And kind of just right at this time, her kids are starting to get into the age where they are interested in partying, which is unfortunate. And it's like, how do you navigate that, especially now that they're all living together? And I mean, Misty recounting it, she sounds almost jealous. Tell me if I'm wrong here. I think it was a blessing or it was good luck or that it was good timing. It was excellent timing
Yeah.
that she was being sober in the face of her kids now experimenting, because if she was still in the throes of addiction, I mean, obviously the worst thing happened, but if she got caught up in being part of or aiding and influencing the partying of other kids in her presence, I think that would have been just like bad news.
Yeah.
But still, that's really hard for someone that's sober or trying to live in sobriety to now have it around you or being talked about around you. I mean, that's got to be really tough. But luckily, she had a clear mind for it. And then it made me think about, too, like, you know, your kids just basically had an intervention for you and told you to get help, and now they're on that same pathway. But, I mean, families are full of hypocrisy like that, aren't they? It's like rules for thee and not for me.
Yeah, but it just seems like a totally different situation. It's like 3 years later, too. Or
Yeah. I'm just like, we go through stages in our life where we think we know everything. Oh, I'll never do that. I would never smoke crack. You don't know.
You don't know. Yeah.
So she's got this boyfriend who gets her, Allison, who gets her into meth. And it sounds like she gives him an ultimatum at some point, but maybe it doesn't seem to take, or maybe she's weak around him.
Meth is highly addictive. I mean,
Apparently it's like first hit. And this is when her sister Billy starts going through her own mental break, and we will hear her story in the next episode. So they get ready. They're going out Friday night. Allison's going out with friends that Misty likes, and then she gets this text the next day saying, like, my boyfriend's so great. He's doing so great. We're going to stay out later. And I'm like, do you think that he wrote that text message on her phone? I mean, if you're really going to go sleuthy with it, like, who just says, like, I'm having so much fun, and by the way, Chad he's getting a job.
freaking Chad.
He's really cool. He's really nice to me. He's such a good influence. He's such a good driver. He makes me feel safe. Like, okay, calm down and ask for a podcast, you know?
Yeah, I'm not even saying anything. I didn't even say anything.
It's like, did the cat write this? And she's on her text messaging app, which is also like shadowed on her phone. And she thinks she finds Ben, the boyfriend, Ben's sister, but we find out it's his mom. And the mom says, what, T?
Hey, I just bought them some pie, and then dropped them off at a store.
It's a regular day.
All good, no worries.
What kind of pie?
Yeah, what kind of pie?
Who buys someone a pie?
But why are you buying them a pie and then dropping them at the store? Are you at the store with the pie? That's what I get confused about.
Do you think it was like a roadside pie?
Oh, a road pie?
What kind of pie was it?
And then meanwhile, now how many hours has she been missing with her talking about pie?
Yeah, it's all weird.
It's weird, right?
Like, it just seems like a lot of weird details to cover up something. And I am not trying to incite a riot, but you know what I mean?
I'm not either, but it's like, don't bring pie into this. This is a tragedy.
It's weird.
Yeah, like now I'm excited about pie.
Maybe it's a savory pie.
Oh, God, that changes that's a whole world of pie now. We don't even know which one.
We don't know. Her daughter's missing for 19 hours.
Hey.
Yeah.
I lied about the pie.
Oh.
There's no pie.
There's no pie.
But your daughter's been missing for 19 hours. Yeah, so that's just like a mood killer.
Right.
Remember all that stuff I said about pie?
I know you have a lot of questions about the pie, but there actually isn't a pie.
More questions, I'm sure, about.
What I meant to say is I dropped them off to the store because they were going to make a pie. And by the way, your daughter's been missing for 19 hours. But that's the fucked up thing about 19 hours is, don't they say, like, the first 48 hours are really crucial to a missing person because, like, all the stuff. I mean, so she's already, like, halfway into her window of this being, like, critical. And it's too dark and too foggy to look. What do you do? As a mother, what do you do?
Oh, you're going out there.
Well, Where?
There. I'm going there. For sure.
How do you leave your daughter out there? And she said,
Oh, I
Misty
know.
says it herself. How do you leave her there?
You can't.
How do you leave her out here? You're out there searching and you've got flashlights and dark trees and it's just miles and miles of endless forest and rugged terrain. And it's night and it's foggy and it's probably cold. And you have zero idea where she could be. When do you succumb to the needs of your own human body and give up and go home?
It's impossible.
It seems like such an impossible situation. And I think this is going to be the title of our episode. It's the big black hole of the unknown. And she's basically in that hole on her own.
You know.
She can't sleep. She's full of panic. This like undeniable, complete sense of helplessness. There's no solving it. I think that's like one of the most messed up things about living in this world is like knowing people go missing and there are people that love them and there's no solvency. There's nothing you can do. There are tons of things you can do, but nothing is for sure.
Yeah. Hey, you can just live on hope, maybe, but more
how
time...
long does that hope last? I just can't even imagine. I mean, the boyfriend's a piece of shit. God rest his soul. Did he murder her? It doesn't sound like it. But all they found was bones.
It's just so weird what happened with him.
Yeah, it sounds like... Okay, if we had to build what happened this night, it sounds like there was a lot of drugs. There was some crime. And if there was a fight and she is on something and she just marches off in a general direction to get away from the situation, you could easily become lost in a situation like that.
Yeah.
And if he's drug-addled and crime-ridden and whatever and mad, he's just going to be like, well, fuck that bitch and leave her. And he's going to go find his own way. And so it could be it's just a simple situation of it was hypothermia. She just couldn't find her way through the forest to something that resembled, I don't know, civilization, a road, a place, etc. And so he is a piece of shit for leaving her, but it sounds like everyone was a little bit out of their minds.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so weird that he came home dirty, muddy, and wet himself. I mean, maybe is that the drug thing? Like,
I have no idea. Do you imagine that, like if he, in a fit of rage, like strangled her, let's say? Because I don't think that would be able to be determined on, like, just bone remains.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, maybe he did lose control of his bladder in an act like that. I don't know. It's so hard to know. Everyone's got a theory. And she says it herself. She believes that the investigators, assuming that there were drugs involved, it's going to cloud their manner in which they're going to handle the investigation, which I think she's not wrong there. Because they give up the search after 5 days, which seems really short, like a really short amount of time.
Yeah.
She's got her wilderness people that keep helping, but I just kept thinking, how do you live? And she says it herself. How do you live each day just knowing your kid is out there missing?
She could be, if she's alive, she could be getting hurt. She might be trapped. She might be cold and scared. And, I mean, feels like torture to her mom. I mean,
if I'm on BART and the train stops where it shouldn't and the conductor doesn't tell me why we're stopped in like a minute, like 30 seconds, I am like inside myself, like, why are we stopping?
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about how it puts your body in this anxious state, like just always on edge. And she says that she became a different person and had to like relearn how to do things. Like, how do you socialize? How do you go to work? When you just want to shout out loud, my daughter is missing. How can we be talking about cheese sandwiches right
know.
now? Like, my daughter is missing. Fuck your eggs.
Yeah.
Fuck your bus pass. Fuck your eggs. My daughter's missing.
Yeah.
Is she being hurt? Is she cold and hungry? Is she trapped? Does she just have mere hours left to survive? And if we could just get there, we can rescue her in time. You know, why are you talking to me about your eggs?
It seems insane.
And she's getting contacted by psychics who think they know anything.
Oh my God.
And these scammers, right?
What
Can you
the
imagine?
hell?
Just people
Why are they doing that?
opportunistic, disgusting. Oh, an opportunity. So everything changed in her. She's living in complete dread. And then month 3, what happens?
It found her.
No,
No? What?
that was month 6.
What happens in month 3?
We all lived through it.
Oh, COVID. Yeah.
I mean, talk about something getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got a lot of pent up resentment against COVID, and I know that's insane.
Resentment against COVID.
Yeah, my life was supposed to begin
No.
like that month. I just got my own place because your mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was getting production
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Everything that we'd set up for the
Yeah.
past 5 years were
Yeah.
finally coming into fruition. And then God shut out a pandemic.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I lost. I feel like my life would be markedly different today. I can't get into everything. My life's great. So she's got to come up with COVID-friendly search parties.
Yeah.
Mental. But she can't stop. I have to look for my daughter.
Man.
I don't care if there's raging fires around us. We're going out there. And then she's got to deal with the conspiracies. She's hiding her.
I'm not hiding her. Can we keep looking?
Like, Gone Girl was not even real, you guys. It was fiction.
Crazy. Her hair turned gray, right?
Yeah, I've heard about that happening. You know, during this time, she's able to rebuild trust with her sister Billy. And again, we're going to hear from Billy in the next episode. So finally, they find her, Allison. They find her remains. And she talks a little bit about like this piece of knowing. And it's weird how death has its own comfort. It's final. It's void of pain. And it lets the caring parties off the hook. Like, you don't have to... Like, it stops the worry. It halts the worry in its tracks. Like, hope can sustain you for a while, but at some point, death is, like, sort of welcome. And she says she just felt this instant, like, relief. She's not suffering. She's not in pain. I don't have to do these COVID-friendly search parties anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to worry anymore. It's strange how death is this like feared dark thing that we would consider negative, but it can have the power to bring its own comfort. And people that have lost anyone to like illness knows what that feeling is. Like, especially when you've been a caregiver to someone for a long time. Like, it's weird how all of a sudden like someone's gone and it's like this haze has been lifted off and your sole focus is gone.
Yeah.
You know, what do you do? What do you think about this hypothermia diagnosis?
I mean, I'm no detective. And maybe it was as simple as that, which sounds,
I think it's totally plausible.
yeah, could be as simple as that, but who knows what happened that night? We'll never know. We'll never know now.
We'll never know. Yeah, we can never know. I thought that was really powerful when she said to the detectives, like, search like it's your own daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they only searched 1 mile out, and she was found 3 miles out. When you're supposed to, I guess you're supposed to search 5 miles out.
That's what she said, yeah. And she was found 3 miles out.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it's like, even though death has brought her comfort, now you're going to go through. Now, in hindsight, you're going to look at everything. Right. What could we have done different?
Yeah, search like it's your own daughter, like you care. Don't just write her off. She's a person.
Do you have the feeling that Misty is still very angry?
Yeah.
So the boyfriend was supposed to rip off some drug dealer, and
Yep.
Misty says, and Allison went right along with him. I mean, just the way she said that, it demonstrates like her hate for him and their
Yeah.
relationship. And
Yeah.
she hated that her daughter just like did whatever Ben wanted to do,
Yeah.
you know? And I think I would still be salty
Oh, yeah.
myself talking back about it. And this dude falls asleep in a truck. The truck guy brings him home. The same guy takes down the missing posters. And then it's all like, let's move on. What the fuck?
It feels connected. Sorry. Why are you bringing down the posters?
Yeah. It's weird.
They're not like giant posters that's in front of your windows. Something's wrong with him.
Yeah. And I think it's really strange that like the boyfriend's family offers no condolences.
Isn't it strange?
It's really weird.
Like no acknowledgement. Because it feels like, I mean, like, do you feel like if you say sorry, you're admitting guilt?
I don't get it. Because, you know, clearly they've been together a while. They're in communication with the mom, Misty. And once the news broke that her body was found, you would think they would reach out, especially if they were involved, and go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I mean, this is a person that's been in their home.
It's just an acknowledgement text.
Yeah. Well, maybe this was the whole, you know, the boyfriend's mom said, I can't go through this again.
Yeah.
Maybe she really shut down and she couldn't even reach out. I don't know. And then, you know, Ben's already in jail for a different crime and the police move him. Why do you think they move him?
Because
You
he's
think the general
probably
pop
in danger, right?
danger?
They're probably like, okay, you killed this girl and now we're going to punish you.
Because that's probably the media narrative that's been spun. You know, I was talking to Whit, and maybe I should have Googled this too, but there's tons of articles. There's tons written about this case. So, you know, all the speculation that he was possibly involved. Yeah, the general pop of a prison can get pretty nasty to women and children killers. And of course, Misty blames herself.
Yeah.
She talks about how she forced her child to live in a world of drugs. And we kind of touched on that.
Yeah.
And she's got a partner who tries to make her feel better, but there's nothing that can make her feel better. I think that's so poignant. And I hope that she's saying that to him. You know? Sometimes you just can't find comfort. And I've heard people say this about a loss that's so tragic as losing a child. Like, you're never going to get over it. You're never going to get past it. All you can do is just keep moving through it. That's it.
You're probably
it's
feeling it all the time.
Yeah, all the time. And she honors Allison with her sobriety, which is beautiful. Ugh. And the poor boyfriend lost his battle with drugs. Life is short. Hug your kids. Quit complaining about your eggs.
Be grateful. Be grateful that you get to share your eggs with your family.
Yeah, avoid crack at Christmas. Clean out your junkie drawer. You don't need it.
No, don't clean it out to use it. Clean it out, throw it away.
If there's no junkie, there's no need for a junkie drawer. I don't know. You have anything else, T?
I think we did it. I was crying this whole second half of this thing.
Really? I definitely cried when she said, when she got teary-eyed. I cried. Was there something, did you feel like it hit you in a way because you're a parent? Were you like thinking about your own kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I came out and gave my kids all a big hug.
Yeah. Speaking of hugs, remember like an episode or two ago, I was talking about how you need hugs. Yeah.
12 hugs.
My sister texted me and she just texted me, I haven't been hugged since March 1st. This was like yesterday. How sad is that?
Is that in response to our episode?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. She lives with her daughter.
Do they not hug?
Belle doesn't like hugging. Bella. Shout out to Bella, one of our editors. So I texted Bella and I was like, could you go give your mom a hug. And she's like, ew, no. She's
Ew,
like,
no.
she just doesn't like human touch. She's like, I promise she gets plenty of affection from the cats. And I was like, it's different. She needs a hug.
Yeah, does this 12 hug thing, does it count if it's from a cat? Probably not.
I mean, because a cat's going to be, I mean, with their hug, I mean, that's a withholding hug at best.
I mean, a hug being like a biscuit.
Like you're forcing the cat into a
They're
hug.
giving you biscuits is what I was thinking.
Hey, if you can, find a hug. Give a hug.
Didn't you want to be a professional hugger once?
I thought about it.
Yeah.
A cuddler.
Cuddler, sorry.
Professional cuddler.
My fault.
Hey, it's still on the horizon.
Yeah. Creepy. Cool.
Cool. Thank you for listening. This has been an episode of Trauma Bonded. You can find our show where podcasts are kept. If you like us, please rate and review us on Apple or other places. Rate us 5 stars and write, like it, love it, wants more of it. Thanks to Misty Watterson for sharing their story and giving us the opportunity to talk about it. Thanks to the This Is Actually Happening team, including Dr. Whitney Missildine and Andrew Waits. Oh, and I wanted to give a shout out. We didn't mention the Oregon State Mental Hospital. And I wanted to give a shout out to Dr. Sarah Tallman of Detroit, Michigan, who used to work in that hospital.
Oh, shout out.
Thanks to the maker of our music and website, Nathaniel Shamboli, and thanks to Cathy Sitzes for editing this episode and for Katie Capel for making those blasted Instagram posts. You can contact us at traumabondedpod@gmail.com and find us on Instagram at traumabondedpodofficial or visit our website at traumabondedpod.com. We are trauma bonded to the story, to the storyteller, to the listeners, and to each other. Thanks for spending time with us today. Love you, T.
Love you, Elly. Good job. Hey, thank you.
Hey, thank you. Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Trauma Bonded.